afternoon. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about metacognitive conversation and how we need to intentionally scaffold exercises when we're moving back and forth between face-to-face instruction and Canvas instruction. I think that people think that metacognitive conversation is something that is very easy to do, when in fact it is very difficult to do in a sustained manner. And most people don't realize that there's some methods that can help them improve and help their students improve doing metacognitive conversations in a sustained fashion. So the first thing that I would like to do is to hand out the Metacognitive Funnel and talk a little bit about how I use the Metacognitive Funnel in my face-to-face classroom, and then move to how we can incorporate elements of the Metacognitive Funnel in a Canvas class face-to-face. When we look at a Metacognitive Funnel, this is from the Reading for Understanding 2nd edition, we need to think about how students verbalize about text like it's a funnel. And oftentimes students, when they come into your classrooms, are very general. They're worried about when is the bell going to ring to leave, when is the teacher going to let me go have coffee break, going on. Their thinking is visible, but it's not about the text that we're working on, okay? And then you begin to see students start to focus on reading, and those are, like, what is the name of the main character? Questions like, why is this passage so long? Or are we going to have to read the whole thing today? Their focus is on reading, but we have students usually at the beginning of the quarter come to us with these kinds of skills that used to be rewarded in another educational system. We have students that sit in high schools and are rewarded for that kind of level of thinking and behavior. And then if we understand that reading is complex and that reading itself is problem solving, we get to the next layer, which is I need to figure out these word problems to get to the answer on my GED test, or I can see the connection between reading and passing the compass test because I have to proofread in the writing section. So that there's a connection between what the thinking is, visualizing what they have to do, and verbalizing what it is that they're making the connection about. So we're getting down the funnel. And I'm always happy in week 2 when I can start to see this kind of thinking. And the only way that you're going to see this kind of thinking really in the classroom is if you model it. Let me say that again, because that's really, really important. Our students are mirrors of what we do in our classrooms. And if we're not modeling these more typical, focused, metacognitive ways of reading, thinking, and talking about reading, we're not going to get our students to that level, no matter how much we sing and dance and talk RA. So I guess my thinking is, when students come into the classroom and you're trying to get them to verbalize their thinking, to explain to you how they get their answers, as a teacher you need to be on top of the clarifying questions. You need to model for them the kinds of things that you want them to find in the text and help them by scaffolding them step by step to getting there. Now, you get to the lower end, or the funneled questions, and those are the ones that are the disciplinary literacy type questions. Like today we were reading an article in my class about a woman who survived 5 days in her car, and she was rescued on the 6th day, and I had a student make the connection between Maslow's hierarchy and the reading that we did today, where she was able to connect the levels in Maslow's hierarchy with the basic need to survival and indicate in the text where she got that idea. That's displaying her thinking at a very specific level and connecting it to some other theory outside of herself. Our students do a really good job of talking about themselves. Well, I like this article because it reminds me of this. Should not be the final type of discussion that we're having in our classroom with text, with our students, if we are talking about transitioning students. So we want them to connect the text that we're assigning and reading in our classroom to bigger ideas which are more applicable in their fields. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Is that easy to do?
Makes sense.
It isn't easy to do, but if we're really talking about helping our students transition, no matter what level they are, we need to get to those levels. When we're talking about reading apprenticeship, we're talking about a framework for looking at the personal, social, cognitive, and knowledge building dimensions of our students. So, as a teacher, when we talk about intentional instruction, we want to make sure that when we're planning a lesson, we've considered those 4 dimensions. And when we're talking about the dimension of personal, we're not necessarily talking about whether or not the students like the passage or not. We're talking about how does it connect to what they're trying to accomplish, or goals, or other things. Socially, as a group, we read as a group. Reading should not be done in isolation. It should be done as a community of readers and discussed, so that there's a give and take of information, so that when students don't get something and their peers do, they can talk about it. And so we developed this list of goals of dimensions and then RA routines. And I think for people who have been through the RA 101 class, that you've seen some of these, but maybe not all of them. And what we tried to do is to organize the routines as it matches up to the dimension. So for the personal dimension, a golden line or a final word routine, the RA reading survey, or the personal reading history, it gets the person's involved, the person's psychology involved in the purpose of reading. Pose a question to the group, note-taking, outlining, listing, and grouping, express whether you got slowed down or puzzled, or reader logs. And you can see that many of these routines can appear in more than one of the dimensions. People say, well, I'm teaching on Canvas, so I don't need to worry about metacognitive conversation. When you don't have metacognitive conversation in your online class, you don't really have a sense of community around discussing a text. So let me just show you a couple ways that I've tried to build community in my Canvas class, and that students have responded to very well. One thing that we do is do classroom norms. Now, having students set classroom norms is very important and an essential part of a reading apprenticeship classroom. Because when students say what the rules are, it becomes their classroom. And then you leave that posted on the wall, and students participate in saying, hey, maybe we're not following what we said was the norm. Should we revisit the norm and change it, or should we adhere to the norms that we set? We had a nursing class that had some very, very serious problems in respect of others and tolerance of others and diversity issues. And we went in and did, at the beginning of a quarter, a classroom norms exercise. We took that, their results, and we made it into a mission statement for the class. And from that mission statement, we made a banner through marketing. And from that banner, we made bookmarks that had the classroom norms on them. And within about 3 weeks, the behavior of the classroom totally changed. It can be a really good tool because it's the students' words, not the teacher's words. And so it's their ownership. This is my transition to college class. one of the things that I do, for every assignment in Canvas, there's some photograph or some graphic or some image. Because for students to open a page that's all text is very overwhelming. So I try to get the human element of people or something that I'm discussing in there. Then I use words like, to be successful in an online class, we need to let each other know what kind of support we need. And I always model. This is one thing that I wish everybody who taught online did for students. We need to model the level of expectation and the quality of the assignments that we have for the students. So, what does the word norm mean? Define your terms. A norm is how and when we interact and communicate and learn in a classroom, and it's something that teachers and students expect. For example, I need students to proofread what they write. That helps me understand what they need. I also want people to tolerate the opinions of our classmates. That allows for many new ideas to be expressed. So I use purple for my modeling. Then my assignment, I put in blue. And I want them to understand that it's bold and it's blue, and that's their part of the page that they have to go to. So not only am I teaching them how to read online, I'm cueing them to color, which is UDL friendly, and trying to help them get to the fact that, yes, there is some text here, but I always try to delineate clearly what I want them to do. We're going to click on this text, and you will see that this is our online classroom norms document. Post what you think. I give them information about how to insert rows. So what I did was, I actually took my example from the previous page and put it here next to my name. Now, some of them read it and adhered to it and others didn't. That's okay, it doesn't matter. They're participating in this assignment as a community, and they can see everybody else's comments. When we have community documents, and they're very easy to do, we're telling the class, you're not an island. You're a member of a community online. And we're working together in this class. So it's not just on discussion board responses, but more like using documents like this. And it's very powerful. They like it because they can read what each other's had to say. And like Haidar says, I think people should focus on grammar to improve their language and make practice with each other and always ask our teacher about any mistake we're getting. That's what he needs, okay? Does it really answer the question? No, not specifically, somewhat, but some students can't specifically answer a question yet. So we want to give multiple opportunities for them to do that. So this is one thing to do, and how you do it is you develop your document in Google Docs, or you can upload a file to Google Docs, and then you share it and you use the URL link, and there it is. You can go directly in as you edit your assignment page, okay? And then you use it as a link. And students learn by having clear instructions how to get to these, and then they become online navigators, which is really important. Another way that we can help students engage in a community and have a sense of community is to use Croc Docs. So this is a newspaper article that was in the paper at the end of May about a bear attack in Alaska. And what I have instructions here about what they have to do to contribute to the article. Now, since this is a hybrid class, on the first day of the class of that week, each week is in a module, I spend about 15 minutes and I run through the entire week's modules, lessons. I walk them through what is in the week's work and what has to be done and why. Plus they have a very detailed in-class, out-of-class assignment, and I'll show you that in a minute. So let's go to this crocodile. So here it is. It's a newspaper article that I have posted, and I have started by modeling my thinking. It's a think aloud. So, you know, I want to know, how would you know to play dead? How a woman says she played dead in Alaska bear attack. Well, how did she know that? How would you know to play dead? That's my questioning. That's my thinking. I want to show the students what my thinking is. And then I also want to show them that fetal position means to curl up like a baby might sleep. Now, they're going to go through and add all sorts of comments on this document. And it is fascinating to see in a simple newspaper article for us what students notice, what they question, and what they think. And it is through looking carefully at their questions and their thinking that you can judge fairly quickly where they are on the metacognitive funnel. Where are they? Now, I don't do too much detailed modeling in this because I don't want to intimidate students at the beginning of the quarter. So my questions and my examples are fairly simple. As the quarter goes on, we go down the funnel in expectation of what I'm going to model and what they're going to model. And they do pretty well. Now, let me see what else I can show you. Any questions on that? This is going to be in my online writing class for the summer. Let me show you. I put a lot of I find a lot of little cues to help them feel comfortable that tells them it's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn. Because when we invite people in this way, we're sending them the psychological message that they matter and that what they have to say counts. And so students will go to the thing link and then they will reply in what they see on the thing link. And one of the things I've done is put anything important above the class. Okay? So if a student runs, say we have Library of Subject Matter, Khan Academy, Compass Test Practice, and they can click on that and those go to the links directly. They don't have to type in the URL, and any links for the class I've put there. And students learn that. So it's like when you have guests at your house, you want to make your online class welcoming to them and to invite them to participate. If people come to your house and you're the only one talking, they're going to leave quickly. So they have a lot of work to do in this class. This is second to, and I always try to put a picture of myself there so that they know I'm talking to them. This is the level of detail that I try very hard to put in my online classes. The date, where they're going to find the information, what we're going to do inside class, And these numbers match exactly the same numbers in the Canvas course. When we organize our class like this, we tell our students that that's a level of organization we expect from them. And they know exactly what they have to do in class for the hybrid and out of class for the hybrid. So let me just take a look at and sort of give you my thinking on how metacognitive work gets, and reading apprenticeship work gets in play by looking at the work outside of class. Outside of class, they go to a website to study academic words. They have to go do the work in the online web class, and then they have to report back to the class their success in learning that week. They have to watch a video on sentence structure. That's an individual activity. But then when they contribute to the word wall after watching the video, that's a community activity where they're sharing their thinking. They have to watch Being an Active Reader PowerPoint, develop a professional email for the instructor, and they do team reading and team work that way. Contribute to the weekly discussion board, make an audio clip of one term from the new words list. So they had to say the word, and I'm going to go to that and show you how I modeled that. And then the image and writing about uploading an image and writing. So this second week, not only am I teaching the ability to use Canvas, the skills that they need to use Canvas well, I'm teaching the course content that students need to have for transitioning. So let me go to 2.6.
My word is illegal. I-L-L-E-G-A-L. Illegal is an adjective. The definition of illegal is not legal or not allowed under the law. Robbing a bank is an illegal activity.
The students love this activity. They got into it and wanted to do multiple activities. So that kind of getting them to express themselves, getting them to work on the word level. In reading apprenticeship, we know we have to teach vocabulary. We cannot just gloss over vocabulary. So when we do it with audio clips and in other ways, and I have multiple ways of teaching vocabulary, it brings them in, and everybody went to listen to everybody else's. And that was the community. People want to listen to what other people did for their word. Now, in my lab, we don't have this capacity easily. So I had to use my office computer, and one at a time they funneled in and did it. And it was like they were going to Hollywood. They didn't want anybody to listen because they wanted them to go listen to the audio clip. That's the community building activity that is really, really good for them and that they enjoy so much.